Had to come in here and teach a bunch of young whippersnappers how to play f***ing punk rock.
Woo! That's why I was over by the door. Nodding appropriately.
What a fun time playing that song again was.
Sounded great.
God damn, I forgot all about that.
Well, it was cool too, because the way Kevin had it in his mind, and you're like, hey Kevin, this is cool. It's a really cool riff. That was a great way of easing in to say that you were playing it wrong. Come on, admit it.
No, totally.
And Kevin's so affable.
I'm like, I got to show him how to do this.
Yeah. You're right. You cracked the whip. You got a bunch of young people to do your bidding. And it looked like you were enjoying yourself too. There was a couple times.
Actually, I had a good time.
It was that mixture of pleasure and pain, and
I'm not used to yelling at 10:30 in the morning. I'll tell you that.
Yeah. Take a load off. Relax.
I ran out of breath there pretty fast.
Hey guys, it's Ryan from AMS, and we're thrilled to have our friend Ken Haas come back with his brand to American Musical Supply. They came and sat down and talked about his musical influences, how he got into the industry, and why he loves it as much as he does this many years later. We hope you enjoyed it. We have an inhaler.
And you know what? It is kind of bullshit because it's spring. So this is right around the time of year where I start biking 10 miles a day.
10?
10, 5 to work, 5 home.
Yeah, but with those legs.
And by the end of summer, I actually have like wind. And then every winter, I'm like, I'm going to exercise over the winter. I'm going to keep it up. I'm going to get a stationary. I'm going to do something so that I don't lose this, because I'm all in shape and fit and shit every fall.
Yeah.
Every year I f it off.
Yeah, that would
and
be
then I go into the spring fat and oh shit, I just had to walk 20 feet. I'm tired. Being 55 sucks.
It really does. But
especially when I'm not, I still feel like a kid, man.
Me too.
I'm doing what
You ever think about
I get to do this for a living.
That's
Are you
what I'm
kidding me? I tell people that all the time.
Well, that's the thing.
People are like, "What's it like? What's it like?" And I mean, you can roll the cameras while I'm saying this.
Yeah,
people say, "What's it like owning a guitar company?" And I can't believe I get to do this for a living.
You're absolutely right. I feel the same way.
Rad.
Sometimes I'm in meetings and I'm like, I'm not supposed to be here. There's adults in here, and there's big numbers, and they're using terminology I don't know anything about. I'm like, well, that sounds good to me. I mean, like, what the hell? I'm like, I just want to play guitar and hang out.
I'll be name dropping. I'll be hanging out on the side of the stage with Billy Corgan's guitar tech, watching the Pumpkins play in an arena. But I'm like, how the actual did I end up here?
Well, why don't we? How did that happen? You were in the automotives, and then where you took a left turn and you ended up?
I was in the automotives, and I really liked the people that I worked for, but I didn't like the people that I worked with. But I sold paint and sandpaper and like supplies and shit to body shops for 8 or 9 years, and I was pretty good at it. But it was just a hard business. And I can equate that business to this business. There's like a straight line. It's really funny. So when I was selling paint, I was selling a product from New Jersey called UTech.
Oh,
and it was sort of like what they consider to be aftermarket. And it wasn't really aftermarket because they were their own brand who were doing their own thing, and they had a great product, right? But that business in the era that I was in it was so completely dominated by 2 brands and maybe a 3rd brand, which would have been PPG and DuPont and maybe R&M, that anything else was considered an off-brand. And I sold some imported paint brands from EU and Asia too, it's really weird how that happens. And so I liked it, and I learned some sales stuff from the people that worked for me and from this old man who hired me. His name was Vern Miller, and he really, he said something to me that has resonated with me all through my time at Reverend Guitars. And he said, when you call on a shop, you might go in and see that they're using an off-brand product already. And when you do, you'll be really excited because you'll think, well, they're not they're not using they're not spraying one of the major paint companies, so maybe we can get in there. And he goes, and you might get in there, but the thing about that customer is the next person that comes to the door with something, they're going to buy from them too. But if you can get a customer away from PPG or DuPont or R&M, and the effort that it's going to take to do that, if you can steal that customer, you're more than likely to have a customer for life. And the guitar business is the same shit.
Wait, are you saying that there are a number of brands that people are beholden to in the guitar industry that...
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. And I don't have anything against them. I have a ungodly guitar collection, and I like guitars. I have a particular affinity for like Ibanez and like high-end super strats. I love what Mikado does at Pensa's Custom Shop in Soho.
Amazing.
The Pensa guitars are, I love that stuff, and I like John Suhr stuff. Ibanez, J Customs, Vise guitars, and I'm a bigger fan of the guitar than I am of the man, although the man is the man. I mean, he's awesome. But
I digress.
I digress. Yeah, but I mean, I like guitars, and I even have some like G brand stuff. You know, I'm not allowed to say the name, or else that one fella comes and beats me, even if
you keep it
breathe
authentic,
the name.
It'll be okay.
Yeah, but I like that stuff, and I own many of them, and I understand the appeal. You know, because there are iconic tones that were made with these guitars for a reason, and those guitars are the reason that I'm here, right? I mean, my first Les Paul or my first Ibanez or my first Strat, I mean, I had all those things, and I still love those guitars. But there's a thing that's out there. So music always changes, right? So the instruments can grow and morph with the changing of music. Sure. And so people have a hard time with the guitar business. There's a lot of stodgy guys in the guitar business. And I don't want to be insulting to anybody.
No, it's a fact.
But there's a thing like where if somebody thinks that the Les Paul tone is the beginning and the end of the guitar sound, and we should have never moved beyond the blues breaker thing, and they like that, I'm not going to look at that person and go, you're an idiot. That's what that person's into. And I get it. I understand that. That is a great tone and a great sound. But there's people out there right now who are reinventing how music is recorded, how music is written, how music is toured, what it means to play live. All of these things, there's so many incredible things that are happening right now. And there's a group of people that are embracing it wholeheartedly and not looking at the past at all. There's a group of people that are stuck in the past that don't want to go forward at all. And I want to be that guy and that company that's right there going, yeah, I can see what the past meant to all of us and how we got here. Because I have Naylor. So I've got my Boomer. Oh, Joe is going to kick my ass for that. I am so dead right now. But I've got my guy that knows how all those classic tones were achieved, knows how to set up a modern guitar to achieve classic tones. No, I mean, that's how we started. But then when we work with this slew of young artists that we have out on the road with our stuff, Joe can talk to them and dial in what a signature guitar means to them. And that's now. And then in the case of something like the Vernon Reid guitar, we deal with artists like Vern or like Billy Corgan, who have been out for decades touring, and their needs have changed over decades. And they still like their classic guitars. The Billy Corgan Z1 series is a great example. So we haven't talked since we started really getting into the Corgan stuff and the whole Reverend Corgan line.
Right.
We made a signature guitar for him in 2016, 2017, which we still market, called the BC1. And it did so well that its body shape and its distinctive pickguards have become kind of like a Reverend trademark almost. Like I see people doing like t-shirts that have that on it, you know, and
Look at you
I like
smile.
in a tasteful way, and I'm like, oh, that's really cool, like because
It is cool.
they want to have a modern guitar on their T-shirt, and they chose that, and I think it's amazing what Naylor accomplished there. But Joe designed that guitar for Billy for an ultra modern guitar sound with his high gain amps and all the electronics that he uses and all that, and he nailed it. And then after a couple years with Corgan touring, he was going back to his Strat to do the old stuff and the stuff that was tuned to E flat. And when we asked him, because we're just dumb enough to be honest with everybody all the time, and when we asked him about it, we're like, hey, what's with the Strat? Is there something that we need to do? And he just told us, he's like, there's a harmonic thing that I'm hitting with that guitar that sounds like those old records that I'm not getting out of our modern guitar. And he said to Naylor, if you want to take a crack at it, go ahead. And that's where the Billy Corgan Z1 models come from. Okay. That's why we do one guitar in the whole line that isn't Carina, that's Alder. Because we kind of wanted to get a more classic tone for Corgan, which leads me to the whole thing that if you've ever seen an interview with me before, I've said it a million times, but it's the whole basis for our artist program and why we have so many signature guitars, is we make the guitar that the artist is touring with. There's not, it's not some like crazy...
like some ghost builder somewhere, yeah.
It's not like some overrated rock star playing some custom shop thing and then out there selling a cheap model of it on the website. This is, Vern plays these. He tours with them. Billy plays the Z1 and the Drop Z. Those are the guitars. So if like, say that Vern, or this actually happened with Reeves Gabrels from The Cure, customs of a certain country left a bunch of road cases open in the rain and ruined a bunch of guitars. And while they were on their way to Riot Fest in Chicago. And Reeves sent a PA to a music store to buy some Reverends and took them right to the stage that night. And we are making and marketing and selling the actual guitars that they're using. So artists can do that, right? But then we get to say to the fans of these bands and the fans of these artists, like if you look at Vern and you see this is what we're selling you.
That's
I mean, it's and it takes us longer to develop something like that, but the payoff in the end is totally worth it.
Well, and that's the thing too. I think a lot of brands, when they try to do something where they go, look, we don't want to be derivative of the brands that came before us.
Yeah.
I never saw that with Reverend. Reverend to me was taking the best bits of what those brands had done and then kind of turning it on its ear a little bit and going, let's make it better.
Yeah.
Let's have, the bass roll off. Let's have a better string tree. Let's have, Carina. I mean, you have to pay through the nose to get a Carina from some other brands, and you guys use it as the main wood for what you're doing.
It is the industry secret, I guess. I don't know. It's weird.
Yeah.
Carina, we use white limba for the bodies.
Okay.
And white limba is extremely renewable. And it's environmentally friendly, which is an important thing nowadays, right? But in the southern hemisphere, forests grow like that. It's one of these trees that when they harvest it and replant it, it rejuvenates very, very quickly. So it's readily available, and a lot of furniture is made out of it, which is what started it originally in the 50s. They brought it over from a furniture factory that was there in Kalamazoo. And ended up using on those guitars because they needed bigger pieces.
Was it Ted McCarty that came up with the name Carina?
I think it was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, again, suffice to say, you wouldn't use it if it didn't sound good.
No, it has a mid-range thing.
Right.
It has a very distinctive voice, and it's cool. I mean, it's sort of like the best of the low end of like a mahogany thing, and the best of the like mid-range of a alder, while still being, I mean, it's not as light as ash, but it's reasonably lightweight.
Love wine speak.
Right? Yeah, exactly. But yeah, it just works. Now the black limba is a little bit more uncommon.
Yeah.
And when guitar manufacturers use black limba, they're looking for figure in it, and that's why they're charging so much for it. When you see the Reverend Guitars natural, like I think we're doing a natural crosscut, I think that you can look at on your website. The grain is a little plain.
Sure.
Looks
Well,
beautiful
a
when
lot
you
like
finish
Alder.
it with the natural. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, but I mean, it works.
Well, that's
So-
the thing too. I think people kind of, it's the same with the Big F. You know, people go, I want an ash guitar. I don't want, because ash is kind of nicer
Yeah.
to look at. But when you really think about it, alder is a great sounding wood. It may not be great to look at. Same with Carina. You know,
Yeah.
if you're not worried about the figuring, so be it. I mean, it's why you roast the maple necks. It's not just that they make a more stable neck. They look really cool and they feel great.
So one of the things that brought us to Carina and why we've stuck with it is back in the day, you're shunning. 20 years ago, when we went from our phenolic bodied guitars to solid body guitars, and we started getting all the instruments from Mir Music in South Korea, right? Wonderful factory, wonderful people, third generation guitar builders, and it's an interesting place. There's no CNC machines. Everything's done on pin routers and belt sanders. These guitars are entirely made by hand in an old school way of manufacturing things.
There's no CNCs for these?
No. Going into the factory is like going back in time, man. It's wild.
Huh.
So at first, Joe wanted to go with mahogany, and the mahogany bodies were too heavy. And so we started doing all this chambering, and then the guitar was too dark. So Joe started putting a spruce top on the chambered mahogany to sort of brighten it up, which is a similar concept to the whole mahogany body maple top thing,
Sure.
right? Then when Carina became available to us, it solved all of those issues in one fell swoop.
Okay.
So we got this like really cool lightweight wood, and we got the same tone that we were achieving with the chambered mahogany and the spruce tops. And as a result, so even when you see like the modern Reverend stuff that has a flame maple top, the flame maple's a veneer.
Okay.
And that there's a big difference between a veneer and a photo, everyone. The veneer is actual flame maple, just very thin. And we don't need the maple cap on most of the guitars, especially on the bolt-on guitars.
Okay.
Because we're already getting that brightness and that
there's a
upper
snap.
mid-range from the Carina. And so putting a maple cap on that would actually be a detriment to the tone of the instrument. But you want the look of the flame maple, so we get these beautiful flame maple veneers that we use, and you get the look. We do some models. We do a model now that has a carved maple top, our roundhouse model, we launched in, I want to say 2019. It was our first. It might have been later than that. God, life
Flies by.
flies by.
Yeah.
And that guitar sounds great too, but the body's a little thinner than what you would find in the traditional set neck instruments, so it's lighter weight to begin with. And one of the cool things about being in the position that we're at in the industry, and one of the cool things about working with Naylor, is we're not beholden to our legacy.
Right.
So if we throw something out there that we think is different and cool, and we just want to see how people like to it,
Do it.
right, we don't have a bunch of people going, well, that's not how you make that. You know, that is supposed to be this, this, and this, and you can't stray from that formula, because if you do, you're wrong, you know? To your point about liking classic guitars, I mean, I love Strats. And my favorite era of Strat is between 89 and 95.
Okay.
The American Standards. And all those guitars had swimming pools, and they are always the best sounding ones to me. They're so resonant because of that. And we chamber underneath the pickguards on all of our guitars because it just sounds good. It sounds good. You know, I mean, it's not, you know, and yes, in manufacturing, that's nice because you can use the same body for like a few different things or whatever. But I mean, something like that where the pickguard is sort of off cut like that, you know, we have to be sort of strategic with that stuff. And if you take a little of the wood away from around the neck joint in a bolt-on guitar, you get this crazy resonant guitar just like
It's amazing, right? Before you even plug it in, how you can hear those frequencies. And you're right, we've talked about this before with other brands where, you know, let's say Fender or Gibson, where they're beholden to that legacy.
Yeah.
And they go, well, now we're going to make this just the way we did it in 1957. And someone goes, well, they're not doing anything new. And they go, oh no, we have something new. And people go, they're not making them like they used to. You guys can move between that and go, well, you're not beholden to that.
I'm going to have flat. That was, oof.
It's true, right?
Yeah,
You know
oh my God,
true.
it's so true.
And
it's so brutal.
And that's part of the fun of being a guitar player and selling guitar. We all have our opinions on it.
Yeah.
But like you said, you're a fan of guitars.
Yeah,
And that shows, I think, in the Reverends, because you guys are constantly refining.
yeah. Have you been on the internet?
I have.
It's crazy.
It's wild.
Yeah.
And those pictures you had on your phone, remember?
Yeah.
That was something else.
Yeah. People are crazy.
They really are.
Yeah,
So
I love
walk
them.
me through now, because
Okay.
when you guys do have an artist and you go, we want, and you guys have some wide-ranging artists, obviously Pete Anderson and Reeves and Billy Corgan and Vernon and Mike Watt, and I mean, there's a million of them, Rick Vito, and they're all different players. What is it like when they go, okay, yeah, I want to come to Reverend and make a guitar? How do we go through the design process? Where can you say no, or is it like, have at it?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. Most of my artist relationships have been very organic, and that makes things a little bit easier right out of the gate. We do Robin Finck's guitars, Nine Inch Nails,
yeah.
and he and Reeves worked together.
Okay.
And he saw Reeves guitars and loved the pickups and one thing, and then got my number from Reeves, and then one thing led to another, and there was a connection there. Almost none of my artist relationships started with the cold call. There was always, right, hey, no, right. Hey, you know that such and such you're playing? I could top that. No, Watt. I'm a huge fan. I probably saw Firehose 25 times, maybe more.
He's amazing.
And then he played with the Stooges. And Ron Ashton, who we still do a guitar with Ron.
God bless him.
And the sales of that guitar benefit the Ashton Foundation. His sister does all kinds of great work, great people. But when Watt got that Stooges gig, and we were with Ronnie all the time, and Watt was like, he came over to me once and he said, it's the Detroit-San Pedro connection.
Is there a connection there?
Well, he's the guy. Like, he would, Firehose would play a gig and he would sit on the edge of the stage and sell his T-shirts.
Okay.
And me and my best friend would go sit with them, and we were like, because we were super fans, we're like 18, 19 years old, like, hi, Mike, and then we'd ask him stupid questions, like,
about the
what are you
Minutemen
talking
or
about? Like, right? Yeah, all that stuff, and like just totally nerded out on the dude. And he remembers everything.
Oh, yeah?
And I've done public events with him where somebody will come up and to him, I'm not making this up. Somebody will come up to him and be like, hey, I saw you play once in Madison, Wisconsin, and I asked you about da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And Watt will look at him and be like, oh, you're wearing a Husker Du shirt. Yeah, dude, I totally remember you. It's like, no, how can you possibly? Come on. And yeah, it's pretty awesome. So anyways, the Watt thing. The fact that we do his bass means everything to me. I don't know if we were talking a little bit when we started this whole conversation, the whole idea of looking back at your life and being like, how did you end up here? If you would have told 18-year-old me that I would be making basses for Mike Watt and guitars for Vernon, Reid, and Reeves Gabrels,
You'd laugh.
Oh.
Laugh me off the couch.
Yeah, please, come on. That Tin Machine record?
Oh, yeah, it's amazing.
I know. I shouldn't. I love that record.
It's a shame Bowie didn't, 'cause it was so great.
It was the first thing that Bowie did that I was really excited about. Now, I am a guy of a certain age, so the classic Bowie stuff and the glam rock stuff and all that era doesn't mean a lot to me. You know what I mean? But like
Sacrilege.
the Tin Machine, I know, right? I know. Bring it on. Have you been on the internet? Whew,
The Mick Ronson
they're
Army.
coming. Yeah,
They're coming to your house right now.
In all due respect,
Of course, it's great.
God, this stuff's amazing. But like Tin Machine, right? Whew. And Reeves used to write a column in the back of a guitar for the practicing musician.
Great magazine.
And he would talk about like Bob Mould his column,
Right.
and I would be like, not only does this dude wail, but he gets it. Like he knows.
And Bob Mould loves those late 80s, early 90s strats. Tell him that too.
Right, I know. Here we go.
That's it.
all.
Down the
We're
rabbit
back. Anyways, so talking to Mike after a Stooges show, I told him that Naylor and I wanted to do a bass, and he giggled. And he said, this story encapsulates the whole idea. He said, I really like Brother Ken, Brother Joe. I love Brother Joe. I love your instruments. Love Ronnie's guitar. But I kind of have my own thing that I've dialed in over the years. And I'm looking at this bass that he has that has holes in it everywhere and all kinds of craziness.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, here's the thing. I don't want you to play one of my basses. I want to make your bass. And everything that you've always been looking for in an instrument, you and Joe can work together and you can make that. And then when we get it right, we'll market it to your fans. And Watt was like, I've been doing this for,
Long.
40 years, 30 years at this point, at the point we had this conversation. And I've talked to a lot of manufacturers, and nobody's ever put it to me like that before. Well, then this was the start of 6 years of prototypes.
Did you start to regret it? You're like, maybe this isn't worth it.
No, I didn't. Naylor did.
I bet.
But I took him the first prototype. They did a short Fire Hose reunion tour in 2012, and I had prototypes, and I was so excited. And they weren't doing the whole country; they were just doing the West Coast.
Okay.
So I put a couple of prototypes in a gig bag and flew to Portland and saw them play in the basement of the Doug Fir. And I walked up on stage. Security tried to throw me out. I'm like, nope. And and I gave him the bass, and he played it for the rest of the tour. And then he called Joe, and he was like, well, I like it, but it needs X, Y, and Z, and this is a little different, and I think the mids could be hitting different. Maybe if we tried this pickup, blah, 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 blah. So then there was another round of prototypes, and then we sent it back to him, and he played it out on the road for a little while. Same kind of feedback. And then 1 year, like 4 or 5 years into this project, he was out, he was touring, he was doing like a sideman gig for, I think, Tab Falco or something really cool. And we showed up with the prototype at a really small club in Detroit. And he sat down on a bar stool, started playing a couple of his things, and looked at us and goes, this is it. Didn't even plug it in. He was just like, he just knew. And he was like, do you think a minor change to make to the body? And we were in production, and we were launching it at the next NAMM show 6 months later.
So it was all those things.
Come on in.
Yeah, really?
And, yeah, well, we don't care. And
that's what happens here.
No, that's life, man. That's it. That's how it goes. It ain't no thing. I'm gonna keep telling my story.
No, but I love knowing that it took all that time. It seemed like nothing was gonna get, and then it was just boom.
Yeah, and he was so funny about it because he does interviews all the time, and people ask him about the bass. And his version of this story is, I thought they were cute. You know, I mean, they had this stick-to-itiveness with them, and they weren't really doing. It was okay, but they kept coming back. So I was like, whatever. And then one time they came back, and I was like, holy shit, there it is. And
but there's something to that.
Oh yeah, it was really cool. And Naylor has this ability to like listen to these guys talk and turn what they're saying into the tone. Like Joe started by working, he studied engineering at Western Michigan University, and then he went to Lutheran School at Roberto Venn, and then he came back to the Detroit area and opened up a small repair shop. And he gained a reputation in the Detroit area for making guitars that were thought to be unplayable stage-worthy. So people would come in with their like 60s Ks and Airlines and all of these things that everybody looked back on and goes, oh, but I mean, in the late 80s, those were used guitars, and they were shitty used guitars that you could buy for $200 because the action was this high and they didn't have truss rods and all of the issues that those guitars had. And Joe would tell players, like, if you want me to, I can do this, but it's going to cost you. And people would spend $400 or $500 to have those guitars turned into gig-worthy guitars. So when Joe came around to making the first Reverend, he took the bits and the pieces of, like you said earlier, of I really love this about this, I really liked this about this, and this about this. And all of that experience is what turned into the Reverend guitar. And then all of that experience is what enables him to talk to somebody like Watt about the bass, or talk to somebody like Reeves or Vernon or Corgan and understand what they're talking about when they're talking about their mid-range and what the Sabbath note is and what the different, what these things are.
Sure.
And I hear these guys say things to Joe that are just absolute gibberish to me. Like, I have no idea what they're talking about. And Naylor every time is like, I got this. And then he goes back and rewinds the pickup, and then boom, we're there. The Watt thing, it was so amazing because he's out there in Pedro famously, and he came and his organ trio played our NAMM party that year, and that was the one of those moments in all the time that I've been doing this. Like, I can't even be like, I want to be cool about it and be like, well, this is what we do, but I mean it. We used to have these great NAMM parties at this bar called the Slide Bar in Fullerton. Really cool rock room. The bar was owned by the guys who from Lit, guitar player from Lit, Jeremy, really nice dude.
Yeah.
And he used to let us use the back room for free during NAMM.
That's a good price.
Because he liked us. Yeah, oh yeah, Reverend's cool, man. You guys want to have your party here? We had parties there probably 8 or 9 years. I had Bob Balch with his band Sun and Sail Club playing there.
Fu Manchu.
And Greg. Greg played in there a couple times. Had the Kyle Gass Band play there.
Nice.
Coffin Cats. Like we had some great ass NAMM parties, and we never charged a cover and just told all the band's fans, come, let's have a good time. So Watt that year,
Back to Watt.
like 2017, takes the stage, and by this time we've spent a lot of time together. And he knows that my favorite song is "Forever One Reporter's Opinion." It's like my favorite song of all time.
Right.
And he just he gets up on stage and plays Joe McCarthy's Ghost by the Minutemen, and then launches right into Forever One Reporter's Opinion. I'm standing right in front of him. I just burst into tears.
I was going to say, did you
like
cry?
a big giant baby. And Penny sees me, and Penny runs over, and she hugs me. She said, "This is the best." I'm like, it's the best. It's incomparable. And I get that feeling I don't always cry, although I do cry a lot.
Could you
but
cry?
I don't.
Could you do us a favor and cry?
I could cry.
It'd be great.
But
It'd be great for a short.
But every time I see somebody, the first time I saw The Cure, I just stood there agape for like.
Well, they want you to cry.
The first 4 songs. Yeah, it's true.
It's sad.
Yeah. But I just couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it. It's Reeves, which is in itself amazing.
Yeah, it's cool.
And then, but The Cure. I wanted to call every girl that I dated in high school and be like, hey, guess where I am?
Or the girls you didn't date.
Or the girls I didn't date.
How about that?
Right. And of course, not to bring, but I mean, for Penny, hanging out with The Cure, here we are. So my wife is my business partner in all this. Mm-hmm. And we bought the company from Joe in 2010 because the company had grown to the point where Joe was spending more time at his desk than he was at his workbench. And he's not a desk guy. And having him doing taxes and payroll and all that shit that I do,
it's a waste of time.
Is a total waste of his time, considering what he's capable of. So we bought the company from him and hired him back and all the stuff that goes along. Good arrangement for everybody.
Right.
And it's amazing to me because Joe and I were really good friends before I started working for him, and me working for him didn't f that up, and him working for me hasn't f that up. We're 15 years into this arrangement now, and it's great. And we just, Penny does all of our social media and deals with all of our advertising partners. And I deal with our larger dealer partners. We have a sales manager that does an absolutely great job for us. JJ, she's awesome, and a staff full of people in Toledo, Ohio that run the show. Seth, my GM, Jeff, my graphics designer that works with Joe to mock up these instruments and then also mixes and edits all of our video. Tim is my customer service guy who also has interesting ideas and is plugged into a little more of the younger side of things than Joe and I are. So we involve him in a lot of the conversations. And then my crew in the back, that all the guitars are set up and gone through and inspected before they come through our shop.
Oh, QC is amazing on these.
It is amazing, and I will say live. I mean, this live. Sorry.
That's okay. Go for it.
I will.
It's all right.
We talked about the factory earlier. Okay, so the guitars are made like guitars were made in this country 60, 70 years ago, and it's weird. And one of the things that people talk to me about a lot is they play these guitars and they get into it, they just kind of feel like vintage guitars. Like
they do.
When there's something about it that I can't really quantify, and I know that
what they're saying, yeah.
That, and it might have something to do with how they're made, right? But like, how do you express that? How do you put that into print? You can't put that into print. Does it really have anything to do with it? I have no idea. But what I do know is that these guitars do have a lot of the same issues that those guitars that were made 60, 70 years ago do. Just like finish things, like little binding things and little. But so what?
It's wood. It's gonna change.
Yeah,
move,
man. And it is what it is.
Right.
And so I am selling a mechanically perfect guitar, 100%. Mm-hmm. Or it wouldn't go out the door. But sometimes there's little stuff, and so what? I mean, I can't reproduce everything with absolute perfection over and over again because that When something is made by hand, that's not how it goes. When something is spit out of a machine in a super modern paint room, and if you're going to put a half an inch of a plastic coating on a guitar, you can make them perfect, which is why there's guitars that are cheaper than these that have perfect finishes.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Where's the soul?
But that's not what we're going for. That's not what we're about. And so I put that out there because that's sort of the way it is. That's what's more important to us, and that's what we're marketing to people. Perfection. Now, the other thing that's weird, I don't know if you're going to leave this in or not, I don't care, but I'll say it, because I'll say anything. You and I know how old you are. I'm not going to tell them, but I know how old you are. I'm 55. I'm not going to tell you how old he is.
43.
When we were kids in the 80s, the first guitar I bought new was an Ibanez RG570, and I paid $699 for it. And that was a lot of money.
I was going to say.
In 1988,
Sure.
in 1989, that was a lot of money. And I financed it through a music store. I paid like $50 a month or some shit for a year.
Look at you.
And I still have it. And it's still in tune. Because, you know, it's a good
that
guitar.
was made in Japan, too, I think.
Oh,
right?
yeah, Fujigen.
It was
Yeah.
something else.
Yeah.
Something else.
And $699 in 1989 is...
Well, I just go do the math. That's
is what now?
$463,000 now.
You nailed it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With the tariffs.
Yeah, but it is literally in the $1,600 range. I think it's to... I've done the math
Carry
on this
the one.
before I want to carry the one.
Sure.
Yeah.
Story is, though, you still have it.
The quality is the same in the price range, which is really interesting to me. How that really hasn't changed all that much. The money has changed,
Sure.
but the instruments haven't. And I think that we are making something that competes with guitars that cost 3 and 4 times what our guitars do mechanically. You know, and with the Carina and with the hardware and all the custom hardware and, you know, even like Vern's guitar, we went with the 1500 Pro, like we went with the good Floyd.
Sure.
All this stuff. Like we don't skimp on anything. And because, circling back again, because we're not weighted down by our own legacy,
Right.
we don't have to worry about where it falls. I don't have a $6,000 Reverend that is made from the tree that Joe peed on when he was a child.
I have that one,
Yeah, that we have to market, and then when we go to make something that's actually affordable for people who play guitar, I don't have to dumb that down because I have a $6,000 version of my own guitar that I don't want to steal sales away from.
Right.
So we can throw everything we have into the $1,200 guitar or the $1,600 guitar or whatever, or $1999, you know, in the case of the Vern. But the Vern story is similar to the Mike story. I mean, getting there took some work, but when we got there, the payoff is like,
See, but this brings us back to what you started off with, what you're saying, like, you know, I was in the automotive industry, and if you had told me at 18 that I'd be doing what I do now, and sometimes we get boggled down with the numbers and overhead and all the things that it takes to make what we get to do possible. But you never lose sight of the fact that it's supposed to be fun.
yeah.
And I think that that's what comes through with what you guys do. You are concerned with the bottom line. You have to be. But at the same time, you're a fan of it, you love it, and you incorporate elements of a high-end guitar and a pawn shop guitar, and it's still fun.
Right.
How can that be work?
We don't, the nice thing about Penny and I's situation is we're not beholden to anybody. So, like, we own the company outright. We've paid it off. So I don't have to answer to bankers or investors or somebody from another industry that has come in and sank a bunch of money into my company. And they want to see a bottom line.
Right.
Right? I look at the bottom line, and if it's not in the red, I'm good. I don't care. I don't have like shareholders, right? I mean, so we've been able to grow and keep it fun and work with whoever we want to work with because it's it's me, Joe, and Penny, ultimately
The team.
making the decisions. But then we've also, you know, we also listen to the people that work for us, and we listen to our artists, and we do all of that. But there's no weird financial aspect to it. And I think that's what keeps it fun, because it can be a job. And there are times when I feel like the instruments are becoming widgets and I'm sitting at my desk and I'm like, oh, how are we gonna get to, NAMM is gonna cost $60,000 this year, whatever, kind of, and you sit and you think about all of those things and it starts to like weigh on you, right? I mean, that's all real shit.
Right.
So our way of keeping it fun is to work with the people that we want to work with and try not to make decisions that are purely based on.
Well, and it's obviously paid dividends. Ken is the guy that's out there, the face of the company to some degree, and then you've got Joe back there going, look, I'm not interested in really doing that. I want to build, I want to create, I want to hit that challenge that everyone talked about and take something that's unplayable and make it reality. Yeah. How can you not love that? I mean, you guys work really well together. It works.
We figured it out.
Right.
Yeah, it's cool.
So
it's a really interesting dynamic.
I'm going to leave you with one little quandary.
Yeah.
All right. So did you see this thing online where apparently Bill Burr and Billy Corgan are related? I don't know if that's a sore subject for some people, but we could talk about it.
I've heard tell.
Well, there's a rumor going around that you and Greg Koch are brothers.
Yeah.
With completely different parents.
Yeah.
Is that true?
Yeah, it's totally true. Yeah. Greg's a legend.
He really is.
Oh my God. I have so much fun working with Greg.
Play.
There's nothing that he can't play. Well, no, actually, what I did here in the studio earlier, he can't do that.
Well, I don't think anyone could do that. It was really
no,
amazing.
I mean, it can be done. But I mean, like the straight up punk rock stuff, Greg just goes, cool. But that's like, he's just like, whatever.
No, but I heard you butcher
which is amazing.
Cult of Personality in a way that nobody could do.
Oh, no. People can butcher Cult of Personality. It's incredible how well people can butcher Cult of Personality.
And you're going to play that out for us.
Yeah, no. But he...
Greg is amazing.
I have a really good time working with Greg. I get mistaken for Greg all the time.
Oh, I believe it.
But usually just when I'm playing, and they can't even see my face. They just hear me playing guitar, and they're like, are you Greg Koch? I'm just... That's a lie. I just made that up. That's a lie.
I don't believe that for a second.
But I will be at like a guitar show or something, and people will come up to me like, you playing today? And I'm like, I'm flattered, but no.
We're going to put you in the middle position.
I'm Ken, by the way.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, I thought you were Greg.
So when you show up together, is it like Clark Kent and Superman in the same room?
Yeah.
Like,
I would rather he did all of the guitar events. We're doing the Dallas International Guitar Festival a couple weeks from when we're shooting this.
Okay.
And we do little clinics on the indoor performance stage there, and it is fun to sit next to him. But it is also like kind of, I was really nervous about it at first. Okay.
Why?
So we met doing demo videos, and the owner of the place where we were doing demo videos at, like, Greg would be on camera playing my guitar. And this is 12, 13 years ago. And I was still of the mindset, like, if I'm going to be the face of the company, I'm not going to play. I don't want people to associate the Reverend brand with my performance, because who cares? I do what I do. I'm really comfortable with what I do. I play ska and punk rock, and I play in a kind of a kitschy polka band.
Okay.
And we have a really good time doing the stuff I can do, and I can play, but I can't play like Greg, and I can't play like these demo guys that play on videos like that. And I don't want to. I am never going to sit down and practice enough, and I don't have any inclination to learn how to play like SRV or how all the greats and all the stuff that I just don't. It's not important to me, and so. Sitting down and doing demo videos was always off my radar. So Greg is doing videos, and I'm yelling at him from off camera, and I'm making fun of him, and he's making fun of me back, and we're going back and forth. He is from the Midwest as well. He's from Milwaukee, and I'm from Toledo. He has 4 kids. I have 4 kids. We're within a couple of years. We grew up liking a lot of similar stuff, even though I went more alternative rock and he went more blues rock. But we get along great. And I absolutely adore the man. And so after a while of this banner going back and forth, the guy running the shop was like, hey, just get a stool up there for Ken, and we got to get this energy.
Sure.
And I was like, oh, and then I had to play. And then it took me a minute to realize, well, I don't have to compete with this guy. I can't compete with this guy.
It's useless,
like, he's so good, it just doesn't matter. And I could just sit here like... And and let him do all the work.
Let him rip.
Right? And so we've come to like a really good working thing. And so yes, now whenever we do shows and stuff together, there's that. He gave me one of those hats he wears once.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I wore it from one day. Yeah. He gave it to me at the NAMM show, and I wore it to the NAMM show the next day. And walking to the booth was like, Greg. And then I turn around, and people would be like, the look of disappointment on their face.
Boo. Sorry.
No. But he's not my doppelganger.
Who is?
You're gonna laugh because
I'm
it's so
inside.
sad. Mick Fleetwood.
That is true. I never even thought of that.
And we work with Rick Vito, and Rick is of average stature and real thin. You know what I mean? But obviously he's such a handsome Jersey guy, right?
It's the one.
Legendary guitar player.
Amazing.
Oh my God, the slide work.
And the stuff he did with Norm's rare guitar. I mean, like,
yeah,
the guy's
wasn't
a
that cool in
legend.
the doc? Yeah, I know. I love the documentary that he had his Reverend next to him on the
so cool.
stand. Which, yeah, so cool. Such a nice
forced him to
dude.
do that.
So, but I'll be at an event with like Rick, and people do that. People run up and they're like, "Hey, I wanted to," and then we were doing an autograph signing in our booth for Robin Finck from Nine Inch Nails when we launched his signature guitar in like 2019 or something. And Robin is sitting at a desk. And one of the things when you're doing these autographs with these guys is Robin's so nice, Billy is so nice in this situation. They genuinely want to talk to everybody who comes through in the line. And they will spend a couple minutes and take a selfie with everybody, which is really cool. And we print out these little autograph things with a picture of the guitar for them to blah, blah, blah. And then I kind of stand next to them and try to prevent the rude people from walking up to the desk and just, "Oh, is that Robin Finck? Oh, hey, Robin, it's so-and-so from such, remember when we blah, blah, blah?" And like, Robin is really being very genuinely sweet to all of the people who waited in line to talk to him. So I try to keep people from doing that. So I'm standing next to Robin, like kind of blocking off the crowd area while the people in line are going through. And some dude goes through the whole line and gets up to the front, and he looks at me and he looks at Robin and he's like, "Who's that?" And I'm like, "That's Robin Finck from Nine Inch Nails, man, Guns N' Roses." And he's like, "I thought everybody was waiting in line to get Mick Fleetwood's autograph, dude. You're not Mick Fleetwood." And of course, half of my crew was in earshot for that.
That's it. You'll never let
Now
it go.
I'm leaning into it, just telling the story.
Yeah.
Because, but really he's 24 years older than I am. So slow your roll, everybody.
But you know what would be kind of cool? It's like I
Slow
was
your
at
roll.
NAMM, I was going to go talk to Billy Corgan or Rob Finck, and like Mick Fleetwood kicked me out of the line. Like that's kind of cool. Or you could be Flick Meetwood. Wouldn't that be a great name? You can have that. That's 3 you owe me today. Flick Meetwood.
Flick Meetwood.
You got it. I don't
Oh
mind.
my.
It's all there.
Oh.
I
Hey,
feel bad.
Rick, this is where that happened.
But no, and I would be remiss. This is what we're gonna. Reverend goes a long way back with AMS. So we when
do.
I was the buyer, and it was the first brand that I was actually allowed to bring in as a new brand that we had.
No.
We tried everything, and we just weren't the right vehicle for a while. And so the whole point of this video is to let everyone know we are super friggin' excited that you're back and that you guys came back with us, because
Yeah.
it's a genuinely great brand that fits in between. If you don't want what everyone else is doing, check out a Reverend. They play great, they sound great. Honestly, it's the truth.
Thank you, brother.
Don't you think?
I do. And I mean, there's a handful of things that have changed, but one of the things that's happening for us right now is we have a lot of young bands out on the road with our stuff. And we launched signature models last year for the guys in Hot Mulligan, Chris Freeman and Ryan Malixi. And their band is kicking ass and taking names. I mean, they're playing all over the world and they're doing really, really well. And their guitars are some of the best-selling guitars in the line. And they're guys in their mid-20s, out making this happen. And I think we're striking a nerve, like in that music scene, that's really helping us sort of move along, And it's real exciting for me because these are my kids' era of bands.
Sure.
That are super relating to what we're doing.
Well, there's not a genre that, think about it. I mean, it's classic rock. I mean, you got Code Orange, you've got classic rockers, you got blues guys, you've got alternative guys, and they all play. It's not like, well, I can't play a Reverend because
Yeah, no.
It's not like it's a 335 or something iconic in that regard where it's like, I can't play 335 in metal, but I could play a Reverend in almost any of those styles, and it's not like, all right, I mean, it just makes sense.
And just you wait.
Oh?
We are about to drop 2026. We have so much cool coming.
It's April.
Wait
a second.
We have so many cool things coming. I don't care if you tell everybody that we had a whole new Kyle Shutt thing coming with the Sword, and the Sword's coming back doing reunion tours and some of their classic
Fire
albums.
Lances of the Hyperzopharians?
Yeah, man, those guys are kicking ass and taking names again.
I love the Sword.
I do too, and I'm really excited to do a new thing with Kyle. There's we just put a Floyd on the Bulge. You know what Bob did? Bob saw the Vernon and was like, "Can I get one?" Which is so awesome because if it works,
See,
it
but
works
that's what you guys
really
need to
well.
do. You need to learn to start saying no to people.
No, I can't. No, I think that would ruin the vibe.
You just said no to me.
There's no. There's no saying no.
All right, listen, Flick. What have we not covered? What have we not discussed? What do you want to
I
get off your
can't
chest?
imagine what we haven't covered.
We can talk about it at lunch.
I'm out in Jersey. I played a ska festival this weekend. I'm still out on the road with my band, not my band, but Jay Navarro and the Traitors, a band that I am a part of and proud to be a part of. Jay Navarro is a legendary ska boy, ska scenester.
And you can't have Scott without ska.
Right. A lot of ska going on out there. I love it. I really. So we've been playing a lot of ska festivals, and the people are really, really cool.
Yep.
And so I go and do a little Reverend booth. I'm going to be there anyway.
It's boof. The word is
Boof. And hang around with everybody, and I've made a lot of friends in that scene, and that's been a really good time for me. I still do a lot of public guitar shows, so if you're out and you live in Dallas, or I come to the Philly show every fall. I have a really good time doing that stuff. I like hanging out with people and hearing the feedback. And
So you like what you do. That's the vibe I'm getting.
I really like what I do. I really like what I do when I take it on the road.
Whoa, that's a perfect last. I like what I do, and I take it on the road.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thanks, brother.
Thank you for coming.
Thanks for having us back.
I'm so glad you're back. Honestly, it's the greatest thing ever.
Truly. Check this out. Stone clip.
You've done this before. We'd love to give a huge shout out to Reverend Guitars for making this possible. We are so thrilled to have them back in the AMS family. If you'd like to check out all the gear that we talked about in this video, be sure to check us out at americanmusical.com. And for more content like this, be sure to like and subscribe. That was great, man.
You want to guess how long you guys talked?
It felt like 10 minutes.
It felt like 10. You want to guess?
52.
Whoa! How'd you know that?
He's a savant.